car felt alive today, but that's not just me, that's someone new in the garage. It sounded like a throwaway comment, casual, polite, almost humble. But inside Ferrari's garage, that one sentence landed like a controlled detonation. To the public, it was just Lewis Hamilton giving credit after a solid drive. But for those who understood the politics behind the prancing horse, it was a signal. Subtle, sharp, and loaded with meaning. That sentence didn't just praise a new face in his team. It quietly confirmed something that had only been whispered behind closed doors. A new engineer had arrived, and their presence was already changing how Hamilton's car behaved on track. What makes it even more fascinating is how calm the delivery was. No drama, no headlines, just a quiet truth hidden in plain sight. But inside the team, it shook the foundations. Because at Ferrari, control is sacred, decisions are centralized, voices are filtered, and public statements are carefully rehearsed. So when Hamilton, new to the team, but not new to winning, went off script and named someone who hadn't even been officially introduced, it wasn't just a thank you. It was a challenge, a shift, a message. What happened next would reveal just how deep that change went. Because this wasn't just about an engineer, it was about influence. And Lewis Hamilton was no longer adapting to Ferrari. He was beginning to shape it. That quiet shift didn't come out of nowhere. Hamilton's first season at Ferrari had been anything but smooth. From the moment he stepped into the red overalls, the results were up and down. One weekend showing promise, the next plagued by setup problems or strategy calls that just didn't add up. The car often looked twitchy, unpredictable, and hard to trust, especially in qualifying. And while Hamilton never complained loudly, the frustration was clear. He was battling more than just the competition. He was fighting with a machine that didn't feel like his. But then, something changed. Subtly, race by race, Hamilton began to look sharper. His inputs seemed more precise, his confidence growing. The radio messages were less tense. His pace in tricky conditions began to stand out. From the outside, it looked like Lewis was simply settling in, finding his rhythm at Ferrari. But inside the paddock, people started whispering. Engineers from rival teams, journalists with sharp ears, even some within Ferrari, all quietly asking the same question: what's going on inside that side of the garage? Because Hamilton wasn't just driving better. The car itself was behaving differently, smoother, more responsive. And the timing of it all pointed to one possibility. Something, or someone, had changed behind the scenes. That quiet change so many had noticed wasn't just about Lewis finding comfort. It was about someone new helping him find it. After the summer break, a new name quietly appeared on the internal garage systems at Ferrari. No official announcement, no press release, just a silent switch on a screen. One race weekend he wasn't there, and the next, he was standing beside Hamilton's race engineer, blending into the background like he'd always been part of the team. Most people in the paddock missed it, but a few didn't. He wasn't a stranger to Formula One. In fact, he had a deep background, starting as a systems analyst at Mercedes during the years when Hamilton was at his peak, then moving through technical roles at McLaren Applied and Porsche. Someone who knew data, feedback loops, and driver behavior inside out. He didn't bring noise, but he brought experience. And according to multiple sources close to the team, this wasn't a Ferrari hire. This was a Lewis Hamilton request. Quiet, precise, intentional. The engineer's presence wasn't just convenient, it was strategic. And once rival teams noticed who he was, the whispers got louder. His name started spreading through paddock chat like wildfire. Because when a 7-time world champion asks for someone by name, and they show up mid-season, it usually means something big is coming. Once that engineer settled in, things didn't just feel different, they were different. Behind the scenes, the car itself began to change in ways most fans would never notice. But a driver like Hamilton could feel instantly. The damper calibration, how the car responds to bumps and weight shifts, was quietly adjusted to give him more control through corners. Then came a new torque map, one that altered how the power came in when he pressed the throttle out of slow turns. It smoothed out the delivery, letting him be more precise, especially on tracks where grip was unpredictable. But perhaps the most telling shift was a custom brake migration curve, something Hamilton had used back at Mercedes, where the braking system adjusts how power is distributed between the front and rear tyres under different conditions. Ferrari had never used that exact style before. Now, they were testing it. To the outside world, these changes were invisible. But to Hamilton, they were game changers. One insider put it simply: Lewis didn't just bring a voice, he brought a playbook. The changes weren't guesses, they were based on years of experience, shaped by what worked for him at the top level. Even in radio messages, small things started to stand out. Short phrases, small cues, little pieces of language that seemed routine but were anything but. They were signals, shared only between Hamilton and his new engineer. Subtle to the untrained ear, but packed with meaning for those who knew what to listen for. And just like that, without noise or drama, the Ferrari Hamilton was driving wasn't the same car anymore. It was becoming his. As these quiet changes started to take hold on Hamilton's side of the garage, it didn't take long for tension to grow on the other. Charles Leclerc, Ferrari's longtime lead driver, began noticing that the car's behaviour was shifting in ways that didn't match his driving style. His feedback, usually sharp and trusted, started clashing with the direction the engineers were heading. During internal meetings, those differences became impossible to ignore. Engineers who once worked in full alignment were now quietly split, unsure which path to follow. Some still leaned toward Leclerc's preferences, instinctive, aggressive, rear-heavy setups. Others were now focused on Hamilton's data, precise, methodical, built around balance and predictability. One Ferrari insider didn't sugarcoat it. "We're not building one car anymore, we're building two concepts." That was the feeling inside the garage. Not a full-blown divide, but a growing pull in opposite directions. And behind the scenes, Leclerc's camp wasn't staying quiet. They'd started to raise concerns that his input, once the priority, was now being sidelined. More and more, the simulation work, the development tweaks, and even the small midweek adjustments seemed tailored around Hamilton's feedback. And while nothing had been said out loud, the message was becoming clear. The power balance inside Ferrari was shifting. The quiet tension inside Ferrari finally spilled into the open when Hamilton spoke after a strong race weekend. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't point fingers. But when asked what had changed, he gave a rare and unexpected answer. "We've changed how we talk about the car. That's made all the difference." It was just one sentence, calm and direct, but for those inside the team, it was anything but ordinary. With that one line, Hamilton publicly acknowledged the impact of his new engineer, something Ferrari drivers almost never do. At Ferrari, the rule has always been clear. Speak as a team. Protect what happens inside the garage and never single anyone out, especially not in front of the media. So when Hamilton gave credit where credit wasn't yet officially recognised, it broke that tradition. Completely. Inside the garage, the reaction was instant. One senior engineer, still stunned by what he heard, summed it up in just a few words. "It was a warning shot. He's telling us who's in control." It didn't sound aggressive or disrespectful. It was calculated. Hamilton knew exactly what he was doing. He'd changed the conversation from behind closed doors to out in the open. And in doing so, he made it clear that he was no longer just a new driver trying to fit in. He was becoming a leader in the room. At a team like Ferrari, tradition runs deep. For years, their culture has been built around unity, equal drivers, shared development, and a single direction. Every decision, every update, every strategy is meant to support the team as a whole. But that balance is starting to tilt. Slowly, almost quietly, the technical direction has begun to lean more and more toward Hamilton's way of working. It's not just a feeling. It's in the numbers. Early testing data shows clear shifts. The car is now offering more stable rear-end behaviour, something that suits Lewis's precise driving style. Throttle response has also been fine-tuned, giving him the sensitivity he likes when coming out of tight corners. These changes may seem small, but in Formula One, tiny differences can reshape entire race weekends. And the one thing all of this has in common? The new engineer. His influence is written all over the data. Setups are moving away from what Ferrari has historically favoured, and more toward what Hamilton knows and trusts. For now, the changes are helping. The performance is improving. But inside the team, there's a growing question no one's ready to answer out loud. How long can this new direction continue before it creates a full split? Because with every tweak, every test, and every result, it's becoming harder to pretend that everyone's still on the same page. What's happening inside Ferrari right now isn't just a driver getting comfortable with a new team. It's something deeper. Lewis Hamilton isn't simply adapting to Ferrari. He's slowly shaping the team around him. Bit by bit, his style, his preferences, and his way of thinking are being woven into the fabric of how the car is developed and how decisions are made. And at the center of it all is the new performance engineer, the quiet figure who connects Lewis's championship-winning past with the future Ferrari is now building. He's not just another name in the garage. He's the bridge that's helping Hamilton bring his world into theirs. From the outside, it still looks calm, professional, controlled. But those who know Formula One understand that real change rarely happens in press conferences or bold announcements. It happens like this, through tiny shifts, careful moves, and moments that seem small but carry real weight. And when Hamilton casually thanked someone new in his garage, most people heard a compliment. But it wasn't just that. It was a message, a calculated move, a power play, and for the first time Ferrari didn't see it coming.